Advanced Communicator Club. He has educated us on many various topics, both financial and just how to live a better, more purposeful life. Our Toastmaster this evening is Cody Broussard.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back, guests. Glad y'all came back. Okay, so we're gonna go over tonight's agenda. So for tonight, our general evaluator is going to be Lawrence, and he will be giving kind of a general overview. Did you want to talk about general evaluator a little bit more?
Yes, the general evaluator evaluates the meeting as a whole on whether we started on time and various other things. And then also the general evaluator introduces the other evaluators for the evening, like the speech evaluator, the timer, the grammarian, and those different programs. Those are the only two we usually do, the timer and the grammarian, other than speech.
All right, thank you, Lawrence. And for tonight, Rachel is going to be our grammarian. Rachel, do you want to explain the grammarian and give us the word of the day, please?
So the grammarian's role is to count filler words as well as evaluate usage, language usage overall. And our word of the day is gravitas, which is seriousness of behavior, weight, or importance. As an example, Mr. Brown believes his gravitas will be a welcome change from Mr. Blair's breeziness, in a contrast to David Cameron's, another word I don't know, which he thinks is a mask over policy-making vacuity.
Thank you, Rachel. And we will also have our one evaluator for tonight for Maurice's speech, and that's going to be Justin, and he will come up here and give an overview of how Maurice does. And also, our timer for tonight is going to be Thomas, and he has his cards, so it's good to go. All right.
So as the timer, I'll be timing both the speeches, the table topics, and also the evaluation of the prepared speech. Green will be when you've hit the minimum time. Amber is for when you're halfway between minimum and the maximum. And so for table topics, that's 1 minute, 1:30, and then 2 minutes for the speech evaluation. 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, and then 3 minutes. And then for Maurice's speech tonight, the minimum is for 12 minutes. The middle will be at 14, and the red will be at 15 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. And also, Mike will be doing table topics tonight, and I think we're going to go a little bit longer, right? Because we have one speech. We'll see how long Maurice's speech ends up being. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Sure. So I'll be facilitating the table topics portion of the meeting, and that is impromptu speaking, the typical elevator talk. And as Thomas mentioned, it's 1 to 2 minutes, and this table topics will be on the common topic of different events that are happening in February.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so that is the agenda for tonight, and now I will introduce our first speaker, and that is Maurice. He's done some of the more basic manuals. He's in, what's this from, Maurice?
This is from interpretive reading.
Oh, interpretive reading, okay. And it's his fourth speech, and it's called The Play. Give a round of applause for Maurice.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, this is a familiar comedy sketch that I will be performing. One of the most famous baseball comedy acts to ever take place was the following humorous exchange between Bud Abbott and Lou Costello. The words alone cannot do it justice, but it is still quite funny to read. The skit was originally done on the radio live each and every time until the legendary duo included it on the Naughty Nighties compilation. The general premise behind the exchange has Costello, a peanut vendor named Sebastian Dinwiddie, talking to Abbott, who is Dexter Broadhurst, the manager of the mythical St. Louis Wolves. However, before Costello can get behind the plate, Abbott wants to make sure he knows everyone's name on the team. All right, now what do you want? Now look, I'm the head of the sports department. I gotta know the baseball players' names. Do you know the guys' names? Oh, sure. So you go ahead and tell me some of their names. Well, I'll introduce you to the boys. You know, sometimes nowadays they give ball players peculiar names. You mean funny names? Nicknames, pet names, like Dizzy Dean. His brother Daffy? Daffy Dean? And their cousin. Who's that? Goofy. Goofy, huh? Now let's see. We have on the bags, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third. That's what I want to find out. I say, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third. You know the fellows' names? Certainly. Well, who's on first? Yes. I mean the fellow's name. Who? The guy on first. Who? The first baseman. Who? The guy playing first. Who is on first? Now what are you asking me for? I'm telling you who is on first. Well, I'm asking you who's on first. That's the man's name. That's whose name? Yes. Well, go ahead and tell me. Who? The guy on first. Who? The first baseman. Who is on first? Have you got a contract with the first baseman? Absolutely. Who signs the contract? Well, naturally. When you pay off the first baseman every month, who gets the money? Every dollar. Why not? The man's entitled to it. Who is? Yes. Sometimes his wife comes down and collects it. Whose wife? Yes. All I'm trying to find out is what the guy's name on first base. Oh no, wait a minute. Don't switch him around. What is on second base? I'm not asking you who's on second. Who is on first? I don't know. He is on third. Now we're not talking about him. Now how did I get on third base? You mentioned his name. If I mentioned the third baseman's name, who did I say is playing third? No, who is playing first? Never mind first, I want to know what the guy's name is on third. No, what's on second? I'm not asking you who's on second, who is on first. I don't know. He is on third. Oh, would you please stay on third base and don't get off it? What is it you wanted? Now who's playing third base? Now why don't you insist on putting who on third base? Why? Who am I putting over there? Yes, but we don't want him there. What's the guy's name on third base? What belongs on second? I'm not asking you who's on second, who's on first. I don't know. Third base. You got an outfield? Oh yes. The left fielder's name. Why? I don't know. I just thought I asked you. Well, I thought I'd tell you. All right. Then tell me who's playing left field. Who is playing first? Stay out of the infield. I want to know what's the left fielder's name. What's on second? I'm not asking you who's on second, who is on first. I don't know. Third base. The left fielder's name. Why? Because. Oh, he's center field. Look, you got a pitcher on the team? No. Wouldn't this be a fine team without a pitcher? The pitcher's name? Tomorrow. You don't want to tell me today? I'm telling you now. Then go ahead, tomorrow. What time? What time what? What time tomorrow are you going to tell me who's pitching? Now listen, who is not pitching, who is on first? I'll break your arm. You say who's on first, I want to know what's the pitcher's name. What's on second? I don't know. Third base. You got a catcher? Oh, absolutely. The catcher's name? Today. Today and tomorrow's pitching? Now you've got it. all we got is a couple of days on the team. Well, I can't help that. Well, I'm a catcher too. I know that. Now suppose I'm catching. Tomorrow's pitching on my team and their heavy hitter gets up. Yes. Tomorrow throws the ball. The batter bunts the ball. When he bunts the ball, me being a good catcher, I want to throw the guy out at first base. So I pick up the ball and throw it to who? Now that's the first thing you said right. I don't even know what I'm talking about. That's all you have to do. Is throw the ball to first base? Yes. Now who's got it? Naturally. If I throw the ball to first base, someone's got to catch it. Now who caught it? Naturally. Who caught it? Naturally. Who? Naturally. Naturally? Yes. So I pick up the ball and I throw it to naturally. No, no, no. You throw the ball to first base and who gets it? Naturally. That's right. There we go. So I pick up the ball and throw it to naturally. You don't. I throw it to who? Naturally. That's what I'm saying. You're not saying it that way. I said I throw the ball to naturally. You don't. You throw the ball to who? Naturally. Well, say that. That's what I'm saying. I throw the ball to who? Naturally. Ask me. You throw the ball to who? Naturally. That's it. Same as you. I throw the ball to first base and who gets it? Naturally. Who has it? Naturally. He better have it. I throw the ball to first base. Whoever it is grabs the ball, so the guy runs to second. Who picks up the ball and throws it to what? What throws it to? I don't know. I don't know throws it back to tomorrow. Triple play. Yes. Another guy gets up. It's a long fly ball because, why? I don't know. He's on third and I don't give a darn. What was that? I said I don't give a darn. Oh, that's our shortstop. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Maurice. I actually just saw a sitcom based on that story recently, so it's funny hearing that. All right, so that's our only speech for tonight. That was more of an interpretive reading, but it's from the interpreter reading manual. Next, we are going to go into our table topics, and I will introduce Mike to come forward.
All right, Toastmasters and guests, as I mentioned before, I will be introducing some table topics about different events that are happening in February. So I'm going to read a question and look for a volunteer to come up to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. And if nobody volunteers, well, then I'll call someone. Call on someone. Okay, so the first is, as many of you may have known or heard or watched, the Super Bowl was yesterday. And I personally love the Super Bowl every year. I watched it with a good friend and we had a few beers and enjoyed ourselves. But personally, I prefer ice cream bowls over the Super Bowl. What is your favorite kind of bowl and why? Nobody. All right, Lawrence.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, I've been asked, what is my favorite type of bowl? Now, this is kind of an interesting question because there are many types of bowls. There's super bowls, there's cereal bowls, there's ice cream bowls, and there's bowling balls. So there's all kinds of bowls that you can go to. And some people might even get bowls mixed up with balls. And then you have bowling balls, and you have Mardi Gras balls, and you have all kinds of fancy proms and all kinds of things. Now, how does all this stuff fit together? It just doesn't make sense. I mean, why do you call a football game a bowl when actually it's not a bowl? It's just a baseball. Now, is it a baseball? No, it's a football. Oh, I don't know, Mr. Topic Master.
Thank you, Lawrence. That was a tough question, and you made that quite entertaining. All right, the second question is more unique to Mobile specifically. And as everyone knows, this is the Mardi Gras season, where I read a statistic that Mobile gets 70% of its yearly tourism during Mardi Gras. So what is your favorite part of Mardi Gras and why? Do I have any volunteers? All right, Cody.
So my favorite part of Mardi Gras was recently discovered. So I've caught moon pies for quite a long time growing up down here. And I've never stuck a moon pie in the microwave before. Have any of y'all done that before? All right, if you catch one, go try it. It creates a different kind of experience. You know, the typical moon pie is just kind of dry and it's got this chewy marshmallow, and it's okay. I mean, you eat one, you know, it has some different flavors, but I don't really taste anything. But when you put it in the microwave, it transforms it into like almost like a cake, and it tastes a lot better. So that's a tip to enhance your happiness during Mardi Gras, is to microwave your moon pie. Mr. Topic Master.
That is something I certainly will have to try. That sounds delicious. All right. The third question refers to a holiday that we have coming up, and that is President's Day. So for this question, which historical person, it could be a president or it could not, if you could go back and have a conversation with, who would it be and why? Which historical figure would you like to go back and meet? All right, here we go.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, I think the person I'd be most excited to meet if I had the opportunity to go back in time to meet would be Charles Darwin. I think just reading about how he developed his theory of evolution, about his trips to the Galapagos Islands, of really thinking about, you know, what it was like for animals, how did we come to exist, and all the baggage and the emotional baggage that comes with that, like thinking about is there a higher being that, you know, brought this entire planet into being and developed, you know, humans and things like that, or are there natural processes that, you know, our beautiful planet happened to through I guess circumstance and through circumstance we just came to be this way. I think I really admire him in a lot of ways because I think he really pierced a huge part of the unknown that we didn't know back then, and I think the books that he wrote and the new ideas and future works that inspired future biologists and natural philosophers, I think really did a great service to humankind. So for those reasons, I think I would really like to meet Charles Darwin if I could go back in time, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Well, let's keep this going. I feel the enthusiasm building. So February, to me, has always been a very tough month because I've come from colder weather. I remember in Blacksburg one morning, we had a weather advisory for negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and I could not stand it. Feel like down here in Mobile, there's probably a slightly different perspective given it gets so hot in the summer, perhaps not quite as cold in the winter. So as a Mobilian resident, do you look forward to the cold weather every year? Why or why not? All right, you gotta take care.
It's good to be back with y'all tonight. It's been a few weeks, so I'm glad to be here. I was asked something about how I feel about the cold weather. And as a not native Mobilian, I've just moved here about 3 years ago from Michigan. I'm sort of a ringer. I am used to weather reports that show negative numbers and snow flurries and no sun for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. So being down in Mobile and the sunshine and the warmth has been a real treat for me. And it has completely spoiled me, so I'm unable to live back in the north again, which really narrows down the options. That's all I've got. Thank you so much.
All right. All right. I can keep going. Do we want to keep this rolling?
We got time.
All right. Let's do maybe another couple. All right. When talking about February, I would be absolutely remiss. I would totally miss the gravitas if I didn't mention Valentine's Day. So, for Valentine's Day, if someone were to get you a Valentine's Day present, would you rather a box of chocolates or a dozen roses? That's the question. Do I got any takers?
I'll go.
All right. Everybody.
So personally, I don't like chocolate. I'd probably take the box of chocolate because my wife thinks chocolate is the best thing ever discovered in the history of the world. And she's a historian, so that means something. Also, my daughter, who for the last, coming up on 4 years, this will be her 4th Valentine's Day, where she will be my date for Valentine's Day. Because it's really, when you're married, it's not the same going out on Valentine's Day, because it's a lot like just going on a date that you went on last month. But when you're taking your 4-year-old daughter out, or she takes out our son, who's 6, I'd probably also go with the chocolates, because as much as my daughter would think a rose is cool, she'd want the chocolate at the end of the night as well. It's your time.
All right. Thank you.
Gifting.
All right, I'll close it with one last question. So, in thinking about different questions to ask, I've stumbled across the fact that February is quite a unique month, and I haven't even talked about Black History Month or leap year. I mean, Valentine's Day, President's Day, Super Bowl, and I don't know, maybe Groundhog Day too. I haven't even given the groundhog a shout out. But anyway, in bringing all these things together, I'd like to know your opinion. Do you have a favorite month and why? Anybody?
I'll go, sure.
All right. Favorite month?
Fellow Toastmasters, I've been asked to come in front of you and talk about what my favorite month is. So I really enjoy water sports and spending out some time outdoors. I'm a sailor and I'm a sailplane pilot, and all of these activities revolve around good weather. So spring and fall are great. I like spring a little more. We're coming out of winter. The weather's getting nicer, it warms up, it gets windy. And that's the perfect time to get out and do some sailing in the water, do some flying. So I would say I'd have to pick April as my favorite month. Thank you.
appreciated the gravitas that February has to offer. Turn it back over to the Toastmaster.
All right, thank you, Mike, for a February themed table topics. Really interesting. I think everybody got a chance to speak, and it's good. It's still early, so we got plenty of time. Next portion of this meeting is the evaluations. So I'm going to introduce our evaluator for tonight, or sorry, our general evaluator for tonight, and that is Lawrence Crompton.
All right, I'm presuming there has not been any changes in these, everybody's the same. I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of our meeting. I'm hoping it started on time. I'm quite sure it did, because I was a few minutes late and it was already well into our meeting, so I'm sure it did start on time. Otherwise, we've been actually going a little bit ahead of time, I think, on this one, because we did have only one speech, but it was a long speech. I'd like to have our evaluation of that speech come up next. I thought it was a really nice speech myself. It's kind of interesting how he is, his vocal changes help to bring it into perspective. But I'd like to get our first evaluator, Justin, to come up and give us his impressions on this wonderful little interpretive reading.
Fellow Toastmasters, I'm going to talk to you about Maurice's speech, a familiar comedy sketch. I was interested to see this speech on the agenda because I can see that this would be a really challenging one to deliver, especially getting up in front of everyone and coming up with these characters and delivering that solo in front of a group. Very challenging to do, but interesting, and I enjoyed watching Maurice deliver that. So I'll run through some of the questions about this. Were the characters vocally, physically, and emotionally distinct? Were character changes smooth and quick? Yes, so you had great characters. I enjoyed the voices. And I'm sorry, it was Abbott and Costello, is that
Yes,
right?
yes.
Where this came from?
Yes.
And I had always heard little snippets from this, but I'd never heard it delivered all the way from beginning to end, so that was interesting. But I enjoyed the Abbott the character and the voice inflection that you had in that. And you did transition very quickly from one character to the next. Did the pitch or tempo of any of the characters distract you? No, I wasn't distracted by any of them, and just the opposite. I thought that the voice pitch was very important in being able to distinguish between the two characters. Was the plot of the play clear? Was the play properly cut so it flowed smoothly, and were transitions clear? So the plot was very clear. There weren't transitions in this, it was all one scene, so there weren't scene transitions, there were just transitions from one character to the next, but it was clear the transitions from between characters. How did the speaker build up to the climax of the play? So the climax was the punchline about the shortstop, if I recall correctly, and you did build up to that well, and I enjoyed that final punchline. That was good. Did the speaker have eye contact with the audience? Was eye contact appropriate for the presentation? So I saw this as something that would be difficult to provide, considering that the language in this speech, in this sketch, is complex, and you can't get that wrong. You've got to deliver it just as it's written in order for it to make sense. So you really have to read it. But if you could find more spaces to look up while you're reading, get a couple of sentences and then look up, I think that would help. So reading I see is necessary on this one, unless you went to the difficulty to memorize all of that, which I would be very impressed with. So I can understand not having complete eye contact, but I think more would be good. What could the speaker have done differently to improve the presentation? So eye contact I mentioned previously. Another one would be a little bit more animated, perhaps have some motion. Perhaps switch sides as you're changing switching between characters. That would make that a bit more interesting. And what did I like about the presentation? I just enjoyed hearing that do this. It was good. I enjoyed it a lot. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I really did enjoy this. This is one of those things from my youth. You know, we used to watch when I was way back in the last century when I was a kid. This used to be on TV. So I saw this whole thing all the way through. And the whole time he's doing it, I'm hearing these guys going back and forth and back and forth. And one of the things that unfortunately you can't do when you're doing a solo is when both of them say the same thing at the same time. Which after a certain point, every time they got to third base, and it was, I don't know, they both would say, well, it was third base, I don't know. So both of them would say it at the same time. And I thought that was right. I could hear that in my head as he was saying it. So it was kind of interesting. Kind of interesting that came up like that. I really enjoyed that a lot. Well, we don't have a second evaluator because we didn't have a second speaker. So I guess we'll just have to go straight on into the other evaluations and see where they happen to take us. So I'd like to get our timers report at this point in time.
Maurice's speech was 8 minutes and 56 seconds. Lawrence's table topics was 1 minute and 12 seconds. Cody's was 43 seconds. I'm sorry, I cannot remember your name, but I'm trying.
Starts with a D.
Yeah, nothing.
Diego.
Diego had 1 minute and 22 seconds, being our longest table topic of the night. Rachel had 34 seconds. I was 49 seconds, and Justin was 39 seconds. Which is why we're running ahead of schedule. Justin's evaluation was 3 minutes and 13 seconds. So the only person who had something that you can compete, which is evaluations, was within the allowable time constraint to have qualified for competition. Because you get 30 seconds on either side of the top or the
It's
bottom.
1 to 2 minutes?
2 to 3
2 to 3?
for your evaluation,
Oh, for the evaluation. Oh,
which also
yes.
they do compete. Mr. General Evaluator.
Okay, and the final evaluation is going to come from our grammarian. And do we have a, before we do that, I want to ask a quick question. Do we have a educational overview? Because I have something I can do if you want me to.
I'd love it.
Okay. Rachel, could you come up here and give us a grammarian's report, please? I want an excuse to get away from the lecture. Thank you.
Thank you all for having me up here again. We'll just run through our grammarian's report quickly. Maurice, props for such an amazing speech tonight. Not a hint of an or ah throughout that whole thing, which is really something. A few stutter starts, which is not surprising given all the articulation throughout. Cody, just one and 1 so throughout your Toastmasters. Mike, I noticed 2 so's. Lawrence, I have hooray written down, so I think that means you're all clear. Yeah. During the table topics portion, Cody, I noticed 2 so's and 1 you know. Diego, you also spoke for the longest time, but I noticed about 10 ums and 5 ahs and a few other fillers, like I guess or you know.
It's improved from last week.
That's about where I started off at, about 8 ums a minute, so pretty good. I'm sure that I've had about 5 ums in the time that I've been up here. Thomas, I noticed 1 cuz, which was a nice throwback. And Justin, a few so's and a few ahs. And finally, during the evaluation portion, Lawrence, I noticed 1 extra so, and Justin, a few so's, and that's all that we have. But for our word of the day, props off to Mike for bringing it home with 2.
All right.
Okay, and so that's the end of our evaluations for this evening. And it looks like we're going to have plenty of time for a nice little educational overview. And so I would like to invite our Toastmaster back up to the lectern to close out this portion of the meeting. The Toastmaster.
All right. We're in the meeting a little quick today, but that is good news because Lawrence has a nice educational overview that he'll go over. And I just want to thank you all. So I will now relinquish the lectern back to Lawrence so he can do our educational.
Give the president ready.
Okay.
We'll do stuff a little out of order. Matt, we'll do our review of next week's agenda for filling out roles while Lawrence gets set up back here. So do we have somebody who will volunteer to be the Toastmaster next week?
I'll do Toastmaster.
Okay. It's important because that means I'm going to make you the meeting manager when I get home tonight. Speakers.
I volunteer.
Diego. Second speaker, because Diego's is only a 4 to 6 minute speech most likely, so we'll definitely have time for 2 speeches next week. You can do it, Justin.
I guess I'd better do one.
Yes.
Make some headway.
Okay, and table topics master. General evaluator.
I mean, I guess that's news to me.
You guys can volunteer for more than one, I will say this time. Okay, so we'll need the 2 evaluators for the speeches and timer, a grammarian. If you want to do if someone wants to do an educational overview next week, yay. If not, we're not gonna push that issue.
I can be a timer and speak.
I can do an evaluation and something else.
Rachel, I'm gonna put you down for 1 evaluator. And trying to see what else is easiest to do with evaluating. Probably what do you guys think? I've never actually had to do both. I've never had to do 2 evaluation type things at the same time.
General and
General. Mike, would you mind being the grammarian instead?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And Rachel will have you as the general evaluator and the speech evaluator. Because that's the easiest 2 roles to roll into one.
Okay.
And then possibly, if no one volunteers, Mike, you'll probably serve as timer as well.
Yeah.
Just trying to make it so that they line up. There are no awards, so I'll turn the time over and pass the time to our educational overview.
Get into this real quick here. All right, so as most of you know, in the next couple of months, we are going to begin our transitioning into the new Pathways program. And of course, when we do that, we will have 2 years from that point to be able to finish up whatever we're doing in this style of training, and then we'll be able to continue our training using the new Pathways learning experience. So I'm going to have the opportunity to spend a little bit of time giving a discussion on Pathways to this club and other clubs. So I'm going to be, over the next few months, if you guys can bear with me, I'm actually going to try to give you guys a little bit of a use you guys as a springboard for training myself in how to do pathways training. So tonight I have a little short piece that I want to do. If it'll open up, if it doesn't open up, I may have to just go with what I can remember from this thing, because it's not opening up the thing that I wanted to open up. So, too bad. Such is life. Okay, now, in the Toastmasters experience, when we decide on a particular path that you want to follow. So, in the current program, what we're doing is you have your Competent Communicator book, you have your Competent Leadership book. When you get done with your communicator, you go into advanced communication books of your choice, and then you continue on and you do some other things in leadership, and eventually you could reach your distinguished Toastmasters position by going through various things. Now, the new system has been upgraded so that you actually take a single path. So every path is going to start out the same. So you have, for instance, in the very first part of the path, you're going to have your public speaking, and or the different parts of it are going to be public speaking, interpersonal communication, strategic leadership, management, and confidence. Those are the 5 core competencies that they incorporate in all of your paths except one. And one path is professional speaker. And that focuses more on the speaking, and then doesn't do quite as much in the leadership portion of the program. So, when you look at it, there are 10 different paths and these 5 different competencies in each path. Now, one of them is dynamic leadership. Now, dynamic leadership is a program that builds strategic leadership abilities. Now, again, you're going to be doing every one of these paths. You will be doing an icebreaker, and you will be doing 1 or 2 other speeches, which will be your public speech portion. Then, in each one, you're going to have some interpersonal communication. So that's going to involve different things like evaluations. So you're actually getting evaluation as part of your training, which they didn't do before. In fact, there is, once you get into the end of the second part, there is a completely different track that you can follow along at the same time, just on mentoring. And it goes through a whole series of different programs that you can do mentoring. And that track, once you get started in it, it can last as much as 2 years, where you are consistently mentoring and you learn different aspects of mentoring and you do certain things and get signed off for them. And then you get these badges. Now, these little things here are your badges. And those you will get when you complete a competency. So it's kind of a little bit more than what we're getting now. Now, effective coaching, it's more about interpersonal communication and leadership. So it's going to have a lot more focus in 2 and 3 than, or the strategic leadership part is not going to be as much. So you're going to be mostly in 1, 2, 4, and of course everybody is in 5. Okay, everybody is building confidence. Okay, so then your innovative planning is creative project management and communication. So that's going to be public speaking, it's going to be management, and then a little bit of interpersonal communication. So then you get into leadership development, where you're public speaking, your interpersonal communication and management. And then, of course, everything's got confidence. Motivational strategies, 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So you can see that all of these ones. Now, remember I said presentation mastery? It's mostly present public speaking. There's very little of anything else in there. Although, of course, you're building up confidence, you're building the ability to do your leadership and so on and that. Okay? Persuasive influence, building skills to lead in complex situations. This pervasive influence is going to have some very interesting aspects of strategic leadership. So it's going to be more like overseeing meetings and stuff like that. So it's going to be quite a good one too. Team cooperation, that's going to have a major focus on your high performance leadership project, which just from the name you can understand a little bit about what that's about. You create a project, and it doesn't have to be in Toastmasters. You know, if your company's got something that they want you to do, then you can use that as your high performance leadership project. You bring a team together, you motivate the team, you have certain steps that you have to do along the way, you present to the club what you're trying to do, you present to the club a couple times during it of what you are doing, and then when you complete it, you present to your club how you've completed it. That's a high performance leadership project. So that's going to be a very big part of the team cooperation thing. Now, visionary communication, innovation, communication, and leadership skills. So again, you're going to be doing a lot of public speaking, you're going to be strategic leadership, and you're going to be doing interpersonal communication. All of these tracks have a very strong value in any business. So the good thing about this program, this new program, is going to be that you can set it up for yourself. So the first section, public speaking section, that's going to be pretty much set. You do this, you do a icebreaker, but the icebreaker is going to be focused on whatever your path is. So if you were doing say for instance, you're doing the innovative planning, you're supposed to build an innovative project. So during your icebreaker, you may present yourself as an innovative person that's doing this project. So everything is going to fit together. So another value of this that's not mentioned anywhere, that just is one of my own thoughts, is because you're doing that, you're also going to learn how to blow your own horn. All right? And when you're looking for a job or you're looking for a promotion, that is extremely valuable. Being able to present yourself in a way that is acceptable to whatever goal you are working towards. Okay, then when you get into the second part, now you have a wide array of things that you can do. So even though you're in interpersonal communication, it may also, and I don't know if that's on the next, yeah. So on this one, you're going to have 2 required and you're going to introduce mentoring. But you're going to have a whole array of projects, and I don't know if they're going to show up in the next one or not. Okay, badges and awards. See, okay, I'm sorry, I guess it doesn't have what I wanted. Never mind. Anyway, so the point is that when you are doing these things, you're going to be able to go where you want to go. you're going to be able to achieve your personal goals using the path of your choice. Mr. Toastmaster.
Well, if no one has anything else, we've kind of taken care of the meeting agenda for next week. So anything else? All right.
I should pass it.
So members can be Toastmaster, speaker, table topics master, and evaluators, but non-members are only allowed to participate as table topics. Is that correct?
So you can participate as other roles, but
Just
it
won't
wouldn't
get
count.
credit.
It wouldn't count towards any development, like pathways. Like if you were on a pathways and you did, if you did like a speech, it wouldn't count towards that pathways progression. If you did
Okay.
a role that was asking for you to do as part of the pathways progression, it wouldn't count towards that progression until you were a member. That's all.
Okay.
One of the things that we have done in the past is we have had guests come in where they have, they know somebody who's in Toastmasters and they need to give a specific presentation. And so they with the permission of the club, they come in and give that presentation, and then we're able to critique it and help them to develop it a little bit. And usually it's a one-time thing. They come in one time, they do it, and then they leave. Although some people, we've had a lot of people in Toastmasters who come in, I have to do a big project at my company, and they come in for 6 months and do whatever they need to do, and then they go. And that's perfectly fine. That's acceptable because they're still getting the skills that they want to get. Of course, we don't like them to leave, but you know they've done what they wanted to do and ready to move on, and that's their path.
Thank you.
All right. And I'll end the meeting on that.
All right, that was kind of